two good things happened this week, and then one really, really bad thing happened this week in federal contracting. Let's start off with the bad thing first, right? Why waste time talking about the good news? Let's just jump right into the bad news. So let's look on the screen here. Here you'll see this article by Bloomberg that says, effectively on September the 18th, there were some revisions to the FAR. And what it did was remove Part 13, commercial purchases, from simplified acquisition. And again, for most of us, we know that simplified acquisition is the predominant way that small businesses get money. So under simplified acquisition, 90+% of those dollars go to small businesses. But here it says that under this new overhaul of the FAR, they stripped away all of the commercial goods and services under the FAR. And by removing that, removes about 70% of all small expedited buys. And it leaves only 30% of the small expedited buys. So we're talking about up to $20 billion being stripped away from the small business program. This now falls under Part 12. So I don't know what that means in terms of how that's going to help us. However, it is something that's significant to a lot of us who have been earning a living and making our money from doing federal procurement. This is stark news that came out. And then followed by a few days later, this particular memo that came out where the FAR Council came together, and on a good note, they said, okay, we're gonna keep the rule of two, which for many of you who don't know what the rule of two is, that means if there's two or more small businesses that are capable of performing the work, then they're going to continue to set aside those contracts for those small businesses. Great news for anyone who's in any of the socioeconomic categories. The other thing is they're going to continue to promote the 8A program. Again, for all those who are in these programs, this is great news for you. They're also going to allow and encourage many more on-ramps. So let's go in. Here, they're increasing the use of simplified acquisition, right? Okay, which is great. Here, they're going to encourage, right, on-ramps. So again, more good news coming out. And then here, which I think is amazing, they're going to put an emphasis on award debriefings. For all of you listening who don't know what a debrief is, that's when you lose a contract and then you request the government tell you essentially what you did wrong so you can learn from it and fix and adjust it in the future. So again, putting a great emphasis on post-award debriefings is great because you can learn what you did wrong, fix it, and then come back in and improve and eventually become a good contractor. And then it talks about making it easier for them to sign up and maintain their registration, which we know that's a pain in the butt for a lot of us out here. Getting signed up, maintaining the registration, renewing the registration, it's really one big hassle. And then it talks about non-regulatory practices in the FAR companion. This really doesn't have anything to do with a lot of us out here. But again, these first couple ones, which are on-ramps, simplified acquisition, 8A, and the rule of two, these are all good things. So we've got some news that we don't know how it's going to affect us, right? With the shift from the commercial goods and services to FAR Part 12. We love the fact that things were under simplified acquisition because, again, that made it all small business, right? So it went all small business if they fall into that threshold. We're not sure what's going to happen with Part 12. They said that they're doing it to help streamline rules, regulations, and make it easier. So, I mean, we do all agree that it's really tough to navigate this, especially considering all of the overlays of sign these documents, fill out in SAM, and then when you get your bids, you have to do the same thing twice again, and then re-enter this information. So we do see that. And then the last piece of news we want to share is as of October the 1st, they're going to be increasing the thresholds for simplified acquisition. So on the positive note, they are increasing micro purchases from $10,000 to $15,000. Again, that's good. That allows us, many of us who had these smaller contracts where it went over $10,000, we had to go up to the next level. And then sometimes that required it to be bid out. And then the same thing, simplified acquisition threshold, it's moving from $250,000 to $350,000. Again, more good news out there. And then when we look at some of the programs like the 8A program, they intend to award 8A sole sources increase from $25 to $30 million. And then on the entity side, we're looking at taking it from the $100 million threshold for DoD, NASA, and Coast Guard to $150 million. So again, two pieces of really good news, one piece of not so great news. Let's see how this all shakes out come 2026. But either way, at the end of the day, one of the things that many of the people that I interview keep talking about is as long as you are supporting defense, right? I can't speak for some of the civilian agencies, but as long as you're supporting the Department of Defense, which is now known as the Department of War, then you're in good hands, right? We continue to see growth in those areas. We see a lot of companies getting contracts and opportunities. So I would say to all those listening, if you focus in on supporting the warfighter and those efforts, you're going to continue to win. If you are thinking about helping people, you're probably not going to do as well if you're trying to work on an area where it typically helps people. So again, some good news coming out of the White House. I just want to share as we are learning about these things happening. Keep you guys up to date. Hope to see everybody on October the 4th for Scaling with Certifications, learning how to take your certifications and turn them into cash flow machines. If you missed my most recent video on USAID, check it out right here, where we talk about the collapse of US aid and my thoughts on that. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next video.